Hey, I'm Mike Kyle, aka MJK2. I'm a business developer specializing in business growth through marketing, sales, and operations. And this is the story of how a client of mine hit $3 million in revenue for the first time since 2021. Today, we're going to go over the 6 different things that we did throughout the course of 2025 in order to hit $3 million for the first time in 4 years. And it's also important to note that in 2024, we did $2.5 million. So we grew by about 18%. The very first thing that we did was we implemented proper lead tracking. Now, this is so big. One of my core pillars of my business and the way that I work is I'm very data driven. I've always been that way. I love my data. I love my spreadsheets. And when it came to the end of 2024, I started asking the business owner some different questions like, hey, do you know what our lead sources were? Do you know what our product splits were? Do you know what our average lead size was and our average sale size? And I couldn't get a lot of concrete information out of that. And so it then made me realize, oh, wait, we don't actually have a proper way to track this. So starting literally January 1st, this is what I set out to build. And I built it out in a spreadsheet that myself, the business owner, and the sales team had access to. And then the sales guy or the owner would go through and fill out all of the lead information to where then other pages or other different data sets would then populate based on that. So we literally had this sheet that had 650 leads into it. We had a high level overview of every single lead and sale that went on in the business. Let me pull up what this actually looks like so you can see what I'm talking about. So within this spreadsheet, we're able to see the month they came in, who they are, where they're from, the product they're interested in, where are they at in the process? Are they in the middle? Did we lose them? Did we close them? We're able to see their job size. If we lost them, we were able to understand why. And all of this information was able to be segmented out. So if you look along the bottom here, we had everything broken out by month. We were able to break things up by service. We were able to break things up by lead type. And so there were so many different things that we were able to do. We were using it to judge lead flow, lead quality, and ultimately sales performance on a monthly basis. And there were so many different unique data points that we were able to pull out, and that helped influence our decision making throughout the rest of the year. Ultimately, this lead tracking spreadsheet served as the North Star of our business, and whatever it told us, that's what we ended up following. In fact, when I first built this out, I showed my wife this, who's a CEO at a marketing company, and she said, you should probably charge like $10,000 for this. And I gotta give a massive shout out to our sales team because we rolled this out and they were bought into it. And this thing was updated every single day, and all of us were in it multiple times a day in order to really figure out what was going on and making sure that it was all up to date and working as it should. We effectively tracked over 650 leads throughout the course of 2025 using this lead tracking sheet. What was really cool about this initiative was all the new data we were able to pull for the year that literally didn't exist before. Sure, the sales guys always asked, how did you hear about us? And that information was stored in the clients folder. However, they just kind of sat there and nothing happened. And so having that type of data within the lead tracking sheet, we were always able to pull different reports or different splits associated with that. And most of the time, business owners like to keep the financials of the business kind of to themselves or tucked away. But we had full transparency around this, and that allowed us to be able to always know where we were at, if we were ahead or behind on our goals. Having this as like the starting point for the year, everything stemmed from it going forward. And one of the things that stemmed from it was our sales process tweaks. I just mentioned how we have new data that we didn't have before, all in one place. And one of those things was the quote size for each lead, right? So how much money could they have brought into the company if we closed them? And now that we had this data, I saw a trend. And one of the trends that I saw was that if a lead came in and the sale size was under 5 grand, we closed them like it was clockwork. As that number started going higher and higher, the close rate fell off of a cliff, which isn't unsurprising. That's normally how it goes. However, the difference between the $5,000 and the $15,000 close rate was literally 35%. It was a freaking canyon. Now that we saw that trend, we were able to take that information and use it to tweak our sales process. The change that we ultimately made in our sales process was that we wouldn't just be sending quotes out via email anymore. Instead, we would schedule a quote call with the prospect and go over the quote with them. Because what we found out that was happening was we may send over the quote and that prospect may get sticker shock based on how much that quote was. And ultimately, whenever you send somebody a quote via email, you're kind of giving them the default not to respond. It may get lost in their email. They see it and it's like, oh, it's in an email. I don't have to respond to you. So by actually having that quote call, we're then able to go through the quote with the prospect, answer any questions, and guide them as to why the quote was as high as it was. And it ultimately made the prospect feel more comfortable with us. As simple as this change sounds, it ultimately led to a 25% increase in close rate and 200K in revenue over the next 30 days. Now, the third thing that we did in 2025 was ultimately shift how we evaluate sales. Again, stemming through the lead tracking sheet, one of the things that I saw was that our close rate was 60%, which is astronomically high. My dad's in sales. I talked to my father-in-law, who's also in sales, and they were like, 60%? That's really fucking good. I thought to myself, yeah, it is, but the 40% that we were losing was the 40% that we needed to have. Think about what I just said about a minute ago. Any job that was $5,000 or below, we were winning really consistently. But as that number started to go up, the close rate dropped, which means that our 60% close rate was actually a flawed stat, believe it or not, because it didn't actually reflect the financial situation of the business. We ultimately decided to shift how we evaluate sales, now based on a money close rate or an MCR model. This focuses on the percent of money closed in order to give us an accurate picture of sales. Let's jump over to the iPad now, and I'm going to walk through what this actually looks like. So your traditional close rate, we're going to call this trad close or trad CR. Let's say we have 2 leads and we close 50%. That looks like this. Right. Half the circle is filled in. Now we're going to shift to the MCR model. And if one lead, we'll call this L1, equals $5,000, and L2 equals 10,000. Well, now, if we close the $5,000 and we lose the $10,000, that then brings it to look like this, which means our MCR is 33%. And that is a whole lot different than our 50% close rate implies. So where the traditional close rate model evaluates sales on a one-to-one basis, the MCR puts a heavier weight on the dollar amount. In fact, this shift was so powerful that it resulted in $521,000 in closed sales over 60 days on 61 fewer leads compared to the previous 90 days where we closed $530,000. Or better said, this one change allowed us to make $3,000 more per day. The fourth thing we did was we put more effort into warm outreach. You see, one facet of this business is that it actually has a vendor arm or a B2B arm, and so it sells B2B and B2C. We put it on the sales team to do B2B outreach every single day. And ultimately, the B2B arm of the business did $1.4 million in sales for us this year. What was most impressive about this was that our response rate to our outreach was 50%. So for every 100 businesses that we reached out to, we heard back from 50 of them. The fifth thing that we did was that we automated our review process. Before we automated the review process, the customer would go through the production pipeline, but the sales team would be so focused on the new fish and the new leads coming through that nobody would reach out to the customer to get a review from them, even though they just had a great experience with us. Now this process runs automatically as soon as the client goes through the production pipeline. They get a text and an email from us asking to leave a review. We went from 81 to 102 reviews in 4 months. And the influx of reviews gave those new leads more confidence to buy from us. The last thing that we did in order to hit $3 million in revenue in 2025 for the first time since 2021 was we did an end of year holiday sale. Entering December, we needed a big push in order to hit 3 million. So the marketing team quickly put together a holiday sale that offered different promotions across all of our products. It's also really important to point out that December is typically a dead period for us in terms of lead generation. This resulted in $36,000 worth of sales in 3 weeks. What's even crazier crazier is people spent more money with us during the sale. In fact, the average holiday sale was 1.7 times higher than our average sale for the entire year. And we ended the year at $3,012,000. We literally do not hit 3 million if we didn't pull that last minute sale. And those are the 6 different things that we did to hit $3 million in sales for the very first time since 2021, and how we grew from 18% compared to 2024 to 2025. And our goal for 2026 is $4 million. In my next video, I'm going to break down exactly our plan to hit that number. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit that like button down below. It definitely helps the channel out, especially as we start to get going here. And if you like this style of video that's more presentation focused as opposed to your typical YouTube video, definitely be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video. And if you really liked what I had to say today, you can apply to work directly with me down below in the description, or visit mjkii.com/contact. I'll see you in the next video.